Hi, everyone, and welcome to season 4, episode 2 of High Scores, High Stakes, the podcast that doesn't just compete amongst ourselves. Sometimes we do it for Super Earth. I'm your host, as always, Mr. Luvva Luvva, and with me are my co hosts.
Oh yeah! Hi, it's Cardinal Smith here. Welcome. I can
So I thought it
remember
was Randy Savage for a minute.
Welcome, Randy. And he's a big fan of Helldivers, to be fair to him. As am I. As am I. Great to be here this week. What's the game of the week? What is the Helldivers? How you doing?
And there's me just sitting in the corner with my gun on safety. It's Tomahawk. How you doing?
Good Lord, great start, strong start, strong start. Super Earth be proud. So that
One of
would.
the best.
Before we get into what the game of the week is, what our challenge is, and all that good stuff, let's talk about, for our new listeners, what High Scores, High Stakes is. High Scores, High
Tell me
Stakes
more.
is 3 friends, 3 PlayStations, competing against one another in a league table. Every week we pick a new game. Every week we play a challenge in that game. The winner of the challenge takes 3 points. Second place takes 2 points. Third place takes 1 point. At the end of the season, 12 weeks, whoever is top of the leaderboard wins the High Scores, High Stakes Cup. And that's what we do, and that's what we are. If you are a long-term listener, you know what's going to happen next. Skip forward 20 or 30 seconds to skip all of it. If you're a new listener, don't do that. It's bad advice. um, if you want more High Scores, High Stakes content throughout your week, because 1 hour is just not enough, then the easiest place to find us where we do content all over the internet is highscoreshighstakes.com. There at the top of the homepage, you will see lots of logos with direct links to everywhere you can find us on the internet. That includes Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, YouTube, the whole heap. Highscoreshighstakes.com.
We are actually just one long advertisement about High Scores High Stakes podcast. We never actually do a podcast. We just tell you to like and subscribe and all the different platforms.
Just a
In
sharing
our
machine. That's all we are.
in our defense, that used to be about 4 minutes long. Now it's like 20 or 30 seconds. But what does last longer than our social media is Cardinal.
Oh, you're
What are
welcome.
you playing?
Fabulous.
Fantastic. So this week I have been trying because Sherry has pushed it. I say this week today I've been trying New Worlds. Yes, it's Steve Bezos's little wonder project when he's not flying off into space or trying to. It's his little MMO, and I give it a go. It's fine. It's good. It's got good its innovation is its combat for an MMO. It's got actual targeting and fighting. Actual battling, which most MMOs you press number 3 and you're casting spell, which auto aims at a specific target and
Okay.
takes off 2% of that hit points. Where this is like shooting a musket and you aim at beast and you have to actually hit the beast. So it's good, and it's a lot of PvP as well. And that's really all there is to it. That's about the entire game. That's the content.
I mean, from that review, it sounds incredible. Where does it sit on the pantheon of great MMOs? Are we talking EverQuest, or are we talking Star Wars Galaxies here?
Do you know, having never played those two, it'd be unfair. It's one of the all-time worst and content lacking MMOs I've ever played.
Okay.
Based on anything. And I played some free-to-play things back in the early noughties.
Okay. Say no more, fam. It is called New Worlds, so I suppose when it becomes middle-aged worlds, there'll be a lot more to do.
Boom, boom.
It's a fair comment, actually.
Anything else, or just this mid-tier MMO that Sherry is loving and all over? Sorry,
Look,
Sherry.
I just have a FOMO situation. I just want to play with people, like play games with people. I'll never see the light of day of this game with Sherry because Sherry will only be playing at 4 a.m. And
Ships in the night, yeah.
and speaking of this, do you know I was playing another game this week with a couple of other guys, and then after they played it for one session, they deleted it off their PlayStations.
Wow.
never to play it again. And I was a bit
That's mad.
disappointed by that. But I won't name names. Two other guys. I won't name games.
Mm-hmm.
A particular game of the week.
That makes
Do
me
you
Come back
host a
to it. We'll
podcast
come
with
back
them
to
by
it.
any chance?
That makes me sick. So it does. Not the fact that these two gentlemen have delayed the game after playing only one game with you, but the fact you're obviously cheating on Tomahawk and I with other gamers.
I know.
mean-
We're the only two people you know
Wow.
at the end of the day.
I
mean,
am
wow.
locked in this room. I don't see daylight or other people. You're right. Help me, guys.
Well, that's Cardinal officially off the podcast. Tomahawk, tell me, what are you playing?
It has been weirdly a slow week in the Tomahawk household. I have
Only 3 games?
Only one. It's not so much what I've been playing; it's so much what I'm prepping to play. So I sort of dabbled in Tomb Raider 2 this a couple of times this last week, really, only so I could bide my time and wait for Dino Crisis to become available. That has now since happened. Dino Crisis is now installed on the PlayStation,
Mm-hmm.
so that is what I'm gearing up for next. I mean, I'm playing Dead Space on Twitch at the minute, but we covered that last week. Yeah, I'm just kind of between titles in my downtime at the minute.
Well, hang on, Tom. Come on, what is this Dino Crisis game? Do we know
It's
who makes it or where it came
It's
from?
some indie company. I believe they're called Capsule Computers.
Hmm.
Strange.
I think
sound
it's
decent.
about. I think it's about a plethora of dinosaurs. I think a crisis of dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
There's a crisis. My goodness. Right.
I
Okay.
think that's what they call the plural.
It's the collective noun for dinosaurs. Yes,
Yeah.
a crisis.
That's amazing. That's the first time it's ever been mentioned on this High Scores High
I've
Stakes
never
podcast.
ever heard of it. I figured it looks ominous. It looks mysterious. I'm all for it. Let's give it a go.
Excellent news. This warms my heart. This warms my heart. This week, I have been playing a little indie game from an indie company called Capsule Computers.
Amazing.
I have also been playing Dino Crisis, and it is as glorious as I remember it being in 1999. It is still
Right.
really, really, really good.
I have a few questions about Dino
Fantastic.
Crisis because I know that you have it for the PlayStation 1, and I know the problem you had with it is having to dig out the PlayStation 1 to play the
Yes.
game. Is it everything you remember about this game? Like, I'm imagining Resident Evil 1, but with dinosaur skin.
Right. Okay. Right. I'm gonna stop you there.
Fear of offending anyone further.
This is what's always. I remember reading reviews of Dino Crisis when it came out, and every review I read said this is Resident Evil with dinosaurs. And to a certain extent, yes, I can see where that comparison comes from. They're both horror games. They're both directed by Shinji Mikami, and they both take place in a labyrinthine setting. But that's really where the comparisons end with the two of them. I view Dino Crisis as like the safe environment for them to test things for Resident Evils. So in hindsight, you can see Dino Crisis has all of the DNA for Resident Evil Code Veronica. So it's all 3D environments. There's no more pre-rendered backgrounds. They allows the camera to do a lot more dynamic movement. It's a lot more cinematic than what Resident Evil was. And it has a lot of stuff from like Resident Evil 3 in there as well. So you can mix compounds together to make your ammo, you can make tranquilizer darts, you can make your health packs a lot better. It is like the next evolution of Resident Evil. It's not the same type of horror as Resident Evil either, because the dinosaurs obviously can move faster than you. So if you try to run, so the first file you pick up is on velociraptors, and the last line is, do not run. If you run, they will see you as prey. And if you turn your back on a velociraptor and just run, they will chase you, and they can move a lot faster than you can. It is a different type of horror. It is still really, really good. The key thing to remember about Dino Crisis is you can prime your gun and move.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
It's a
intrigued.
really
I'm
good game.
intrigued. I'm really intrigued to try it out now. I want to see if 2 years of Luvva talking about it on this platform.
If only
It's
it's only
gonna
been 10
be like
years.
It's been 20 years. He's been talking about it just to nobody. We just
long
record
before.
it now
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
podcast.
9,294 days since
Dear.
Dino Crisis.
The fact that you've been counting it. Anyway, so yeah,
He's got a
I'm
tally
excited
on
to
his
play
wall at
Dino
home.
Crisis. To be fair, I'm also I'm also excited to play it, and then it just turned out to be mid.
Oh, it's not that.
Just
It's not that. It's not that. My advice for new players of Dino Crisis is spare your ammo. Spare your ammo. 100%. If you pick the easy difficulty, then do not, I repeat, do not use the grenade launcher that you start the game with, because it only has 20 rounds in the entire game, and you will need it for the end. You will need
really?
it for the end. It
Okay.
is a tough game, but it's really, really good. And I think I said this last week as well. Have a notebook beside you, because you
Yeah.
can pick up files in Dino Crisis, but it doesn't have a separate files tab. You can't reread them. If you want to reread it, you have to go back to where you found it.
Oh God.
So have
That is
a
okay.
notebook, because numbers play a big part in it. But yeah, Dino Crisis, it's great. It's great.
And that
Brilliant.
concludes this week's High Scores Dino Crisis segment.
It does.
Right. What are we talking about this week? Let's get into the meat and veg about this week's episode then. Let's do that.
Okay.
Exclusively Dino Crisis.
Okay. The game that we are actually going to spend the majority of the time talking about, the challenge game, as it were, is, of course, Helldivers 2. And the challenge this week was very, very, very simple. Us three were going to drop into a mission and hopefully
We're going to
complete
hell
it.
dive.
Hopefully complete it. And we're going to give out points for how all of our performances do. Now, in a break from high scores, high stakes tradition, we have dropped the easy scoring system and we have went for something a little bit more complicated. So I know Tom has written gratuitous notes on this scoring system, and I'm going to ask Tomahawk, please explain this week's scoring system for Helldivers 2.
Right. Okay. This is the scribblings of a madman on this, and it's like versions and drafts upon drafts. But we'll see what we can manage here. So at the end of a Helldivers movie, the criteria is scored on 13 different counts. What we've done is discounted pretty much all of them. So bare bones of it, we get a point for the most kills. We get a point for how accurate you are as a Helldiver. You get a point for how little you can die. You get a point for the least accidental, so that's going to be like friendly fire, accidental kills, mortar fire, that kind of thing. Anything that might involve your fellow Helldiver falling.
Mm-hmm.
That also works then with the most accidentals. You get a point deducted from your total. We all get a point if we complete the mission. We all get a point if we individually extract. And for every player that does not extract, loses a point.
Okay. Straightforward stuff there, folks. All
Let's call out this is the first time in High Scores, High Stakes history we've got minus points,
Negative
which
points,
affect the
yes.
leaderboard negatively, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Horrendous.
I'm also going to do a little bit of foreshadowing. That's a literary device, by the way, folks. This is highbrow, high scores, highbrows. And Tomahawk, you said a very important metric there. Accidentals. That's all I'm saying. I think, with all that being said, we should just get to Helldivers 2, this week's challenge game. Let's go.
Accidentally deleting off hard drives so we don't get to play it again. That's what it is.
I hate this game. Delete. So here we are then. Challenge 2 of Season 4, Helldivers 2. And it's somewhat of a team challenge. There are benefits to us all working as a team in order to get those mission completion point and the extraction point. However, being high scores, high stakes, we also kept a competitive edge. There's a lot of, I expected, I'm not going to lie to you, I expected a lot of underhanded tactics to be deployed in this challenge. I was looking forward to this challenge. So it was. This is a great game. I think it's a great game. we talked about this game at length in our second or third episode of Game of the Month. If you want to listen to that episode, just scroll down. It's in the feed there somewhere. We talked about me and Tomahawk and Plain Dog talked about it for the guts of 2 hours, I think it was. Do you know what though? Do you know what I've just noticed there? Someone here wasn't present in that, and I'm really curious at what Cardinal's thoughts are on Helldivers 2.
Yeah, I was at the High Scores High Stakes Season 3 bus tour celebration, and you tried to replace me with some random ginger, but that's fine. And Helldivers 2 is a great game. I really enjoyed Helldivers, which was a top-down, kind of fun, lower budget game, but Helldivers 2 is massive. It like puts my computer under strain. And it's become a beast of a game in terms of how successful it is. I think it's great. I just wish I had more people to play it with.
Yeah.
Shame that, isn't it?
It's the story of your life. Also, for any listeners out there who may have ginger hair, Cardinal Smith's thoughts and opinions on that matter do not reflect those of High Scores High Stakes Studios, and we would like to distance ourselves from that previous comment. As a half ginger
Gingers try to
myself,
steal
I
your
find
soul.
him offensive, actually, Cardinal. And
That's not true.
challenging.
That's not true. If you do
Right,
Google
right.
though, gingers, it does say gingers will try to steal your soul.
Circling back to Helldivers. Not enough about this. Who's ginger and who's not ginger? Helldivers is a funny one at the minute because we all love it as a collective. It has had a bit of flack as of late, as it can be accused of being a bit unbalanced and a bit same at the minute. But I think Arrowhead are doing a pretty great job of constantly like in-game balancing, and they're very forward facing with the player base about what they're changing and what they're adding on. I think they've just come off the back of a 60-day patch that they did announce that they weren't completing until 64 days because they didn't want the weekend gaming to be disrupted. So I think that they're like, for constantly being monitored and updated, I think credit to them. But the game recently has had some sort of patchy issues to it. Like, but on the whole, I think it's a great game. I really have enjoyed playing it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is a great game. Let's just be fair and frank about it. It's a great game. I think a lot of the flack it's been getting, especially from the PC crowd, is nothing to do with Arrowhead nor the game itself. It's all to do with Sony imposing the PSN sign-in stuff, which I think is a real nonsense, to be quite honest. We all play on PC. We all have so many accounts with so many different companies just to be able to play the games. It's not a big deal. You do it once and it's never done again. Who cares? To be quite matter. I think it's unbalanced, but it doesn't have to be balanced because there's no PvP. It's PvE. So who cares if someone has a way ridiculously more weapon? It is what it is. So let's get into this challenge. And speaking of this balance issue, because it is an issue when we were QAing this challenge that we saw ourselves. So what have we done? What is this mission we're doing? So the mission we are doing is a defensive mission. Basically, it is to thin the number of the terminids in the sector. So it's basically tiny section of the map. We just have to hold it for as long as possible and kill as many terminids as possible whilst we're there. That is it. It's nice and easy. In order for us to balance this challenge, because we all have played this game for differing amounts of time. I know Cardinal, you've played the least out of us three. Tomahawk has played it for the most of us three. So we're all three very different levels. So in order to make this a fair challenge, we did impose a gear restriction. So we all had to have a tier 1 primary, a tier 1 secondary. And then when it came to stratagems and things like that, we weren't allowed any of the really late game stratagems. So no 500 kg nuke or anything like that. Other than that, it was anything goes. So we all went into the game, I think, with an identical sort of loadout weapons wise. The only thing differentiating us was the color of our armor and our stratagems, and that was it. It is the easiest and best way for us to ensure that the competition is fair. And that there's no one going in with a undue advantage over the other two. So that is what we have done. But before I say let's get to the gameplay,
Oh,
there's something else. There is another matter. It is
what?
Cardinal's favorite section of the podcast. It is yours favorite section of the podcast, dear listeners. It is, of course, the game show of High Scores, High Stakes. It is the internet's newest, latest, and greatest game show. I am, of course, talking about Name That Game with your host, Tomahawk. Let's get there now. Name
Jay?
that game.
So, we are back with another edition of Name That Game.
Yes, we are.
The last time we joined this, Luvva has took a 2-0 lead.
Robbed.
Pretty much as expected, really. No
Yeah.
harm to you there, Cardinal. Sorry, not
It's
sorry.
ridiculous.
But I have tailored the games this week to possibly give you a fighting chance, because I do remember you saying last week that you do not know how any of this works. You don't know how any games are made, who makes games, or titles of games.
It is an issue in this game. It does show some ignorance up. It punishes it. But that's fine.
Well, let's get into game number 1. And our good friend at Amazon Game Reviews, Joshua, has given this game a 5-star review.
Oh, it's a
The
fire.
title, this is the first 5-star of the review of the series, and he has given it an excellent game for kids or adults. We purchased this game for our 9-year-old son. He loves it and constantly wants me to play it with him. It is a funny and cute game that has some problem-solving challenges that are very clever and humorous. It is very simple, and the only thing I can say detracts from it is the length of the entire game. It only takes a few hours to complete if you are familiar with it, but it has replay value as well, so no big deal. Overall, a clean, fun, and simple game which will make you laugh. And 3 people found that helpful.
Hmm.
Cardinal
5
Smith,
stars.
Mr. Luvva Luvva, please name that game.
That
It's a tough one.
is. It's quite broad.
Short and sweet, though, as well as a review.
It is. I am going to guess incorrectly here, but I am going to. Is it Bluey, the game?
Cardinal, would you like a hazard a guess?
Okay, replay ability. Gosh. Is it? That's my buzzer. Is it Astrobots as the latest one?
No, you both have not named that game. Luvva, we did Bluey last season, and Cardinal, we did Astrobot last week.
Yeah, we did do Astrobot last week.
It's like
Anyway,
respectable.
let us go into clue number 1. It was developed by a 4-person team at House.
House?
Name that
House?
game.
Spell house.
House?
H-A-U-S, is it? Or
Ouse.
O-U-S-E?
Like house, the place in which one lives.
That weirdly to me sounds familiar.
Would you like
But
to
I
hazard
don't-
a guess off that familiar feeling?
It's a game for kids. Light problem solving. Cute. It's not what I thought it was.
Is it Lego Star Wars?
Straight in with a guess, Luvva.
An
Would
indie
you,
development team of 4 people?
yeah, Traveller's Tales. Tiny indie team.
Never heard of them.
I have no idea. Absolutely no idea what this could be. I'm just trying to think of kids' games. I am going to go with another incorrect guess, and I'm going to go with Paw Patrol on the Roll.
Okay. Again, none of you have named that game. So, clue number 2. The game's name changes depending if you're playing solo or co-op. Name that game.
What? Like, the name of the game changes? That's
It
madness.
doesn't. Not massively, but it'll if you're playing solo, you get the singular. If you're playing co-op, you get a plural. If that's an additional clue to your clue there.
What? I have no clue what this is. Absolutely none. So it's a co-op game for kids. Light problem solving. Is it It Takes Two?
Is it? I'm basing this on what I have installed on my PlayStation hard drive at the moment, and I'm torn between two games. I'm gonna say, so I'm gonna say the next one
Okay.
next if this is wrong. But I have this installed. It's a short game, and I've played it with two people. I don't remember the name changing, but it's Untitled Goose Game.
Give Cardinal Smith his first point of the season. It is indeed the Untitled Goose Game.
Fair play.
I was
So
going to say Overcooked 2 if it wasn't.
I remember this when I played it on co-op. It actually like erases goose, and then it
And
calls it
becomes Geese.
the Untitled Geese Game.
Quite smart. I like that. Like that. Never played it.
I think it's a great game. I think it's so funny. It's terribly difficult if you play as a single player, by the way,
I remember you saying the other week.
because the first mission is like you have to steal the farmer's hat and then you have to lock him out, but it takes two geese to do that
Mm-hmm.
quickly and efficiently. So yeah, you'd be there for ages as a single player. But there we are. Cardinal Smith is off the mark.
done,
We are
Cardinal.
at a
Oh
2-1
my
to
goodness.
Luvva.
Well
He said
done, mate.
he's keeping a clean sheet all season, but he can't. His back door was wide open, and I took the
Shall
chance.
we keep this momentum going and
Yes.
see if he can name two games on the trot?
Let's find out.
So
Probably
our game
pushing
number
it.
2. Well, we can only hope. Our game number 2 then is from Mike Ward, and he gave this 3 stars.
Okay, Mike.
So
Sweet.
frustrating for an occasional gamer. The game is lovely, nice graphics, and an engaging storyline. But the occasional gamer is not so applicable. The main reasons are 1. You cannot pause the game. You need to quit. Even when you operate menus, the game still runs and you can die. 2. Such a huge gap between saving states. You can play for ages, brackets an hour or so, and be sent back to the start with all the enemies reinstated. Such shame, but obviously aimed at those who spent ages working out the intricacies. Just put more save stations in. Cardinal Smith, Mr. Luvva Luvva, name that game.
Save stations.
Save stations. I didn't even think of that. That's a weird name.
It is
Can
a
you-
really weird way to name it, isn't it? Yeah.
Can you reread that from it, Tomahawk?
The whole review?
Yes, please.
Okay. So frustrating for an occasional gamer. The game is lovely, nice graphics, and engaging storyline, but for an occasional gamer is not so applicable. The main reasons are you cannot pause the game, you need to quit. Even when you operate menus, the game still runs and you can die. 2. Such a huge gap between saving states. You can play for ages, an hour or so, and be sent back to the start with all enemies reinstated. Such a shame, but obviously aimed at those who spent ages working out the intricacies. Just put more save stations in.
Okay. I'm going to put a guess in. I don't think I'm right, but I'm eliminating what games I think this is. Is it Alien Isolation?
Cardinal, would you like to retort?
Is it Bloodborne?
One of you has named that game,
Oh,
and Cardinal Smith has named that game.
That was my next guess. So it was.
what? That's outrageous.
That was phenomenal.
I
That
just-
actually, I like trying to find a Bloodborne review that was not giving away pretty much anything that said Elden Ring, not anything that did Dark Souls, Demon Souls. That was a hard review to come across and didn't give an awful lot away, to be honest.
I thought it sounded like a From Software game, but the save station is like it could be Alien.
It
So I
just
was just eliminating.
and I had no idea, and I've never played Bloodborne. If you're a listener to this podcast, you'll know. But the idea that you go back a while and all the enemies are reinstated just reminded me of these two lads streaming and that pretty
Yeah.
much happening all the time.
I just don't know why I would call lanterns as a safe
That's
station.
it. Yeah.
That's the most random.
The clues were a funny one for this because I really struggled to get clues without making it too obvious for
I
both
thought
of you.
it'd be like a really old game, like take it back to the 90s, 90s, like old Final Fantasies or action games. So you had to reach a certain point before you could even save it and switch it off.
Oh, there we are. That is
Oh.
dramatic, if anything. Because at the
What's the
end
score,
of
Tom?
week 2, it's all tied up at 2 apiece.
Give them a chance. That's all it is. Give them a
That's
chance.
unbelievable, Luvva. Luvva, what
This is how
happened?
we make storylines in podcasting, boys. If I ran away to a 4-0 lead, the viewers wouldn't care. They would like, that's game over there. Cardinal's toast. He's done. Stick a fork in him. This is actually creating jeopardy, creating stakes, and it's creating this is called long-term storytelling. You're welcome, listeners.
High
I hope
scores,
you enjoy the
long-term
rest of the season.
storytelling stakes.
And speaking of high stakes, I think it's time that we forget about this debacle. What is named that game? Probably the worst edition of it in
One of the
this
best.
podcast history. To be fair, it's been a great wee edition, but now you've just maybe even getting rid of it completely for
Something's
future
marred,
episodes. Let's get to this week's challenge game, Helldivers 2. And here we are then, the challenge gameplay. And eagle-eyed viewers may actually see that there's 3 of us on this podcast, but only 2 little windows there of gameplay. What's that about? I'll tell you what that's about. Cardinal Smith decided in his infinite wisdom to buy Helldivers 2, not on PlayStation 5, but on his personal computer. His 2007 iMac with the transparent blue back. It's a really nice computer, to be fair to him, but I don't know if it's the best place to buy Helldivers 2. So obviously he couldn't play it and record it because, you know, it lacks the RAM capabilities of modern day computing systems. But it is what it is.
And that's a nice way of describing different video frame rate formats. So, and easy editing options.
Yes. So this week we're going to make do with just 2 windows. It is Mr. Luvva Luvva on the left and Tomahawk on the right, as denoted by the names being in the appropriate windows. Before we get started on this one, I've already said what I expected from this challenge. I expected dirty tactics. I expected to be targeted by an organized campaign of terror by you 2 gentlemen. What were you 2 expecting, Cardinal? We'll start with you first. What were you expecting to happen in this challenge? Honestly, it's a safe space.
A lot of team killing. Tom misplacing stratagems that happened to just be too close, and getting overrun mostly by our tier 1 starter weapons against these enemies.
Indeed. What about you, Tomahawk?
Yeah, I think with the nerfing of our primaries, I thought we were going to struggle and get overwhelmed pretty early doors. I don't know. You say about underhanded tactics. I kind of lived in fear that constantly something was going to happen, but I know that we did say about negative points were at stake here. So I think that constantly lived at the forefront of everyone's mind, and just thought, at what point do you risk a negative point for when you can, if you can bank positive points throughout the challenge? I think I did live in fear ever so slightly that someone, you Luvva, was going to do something slightly unsavory.
I mean, that's right. I would never do such a thing. I'm a fair competitor. I have never underhandedly done anything on this podcast or in my life. To be honest, I am honest. I am trustworthy, and I would never do such a thing to my fellow Helldivers. Sipperf relies on us, and I wasn't about to jeopardize that for another point on the high scores, high stakes table, even if it meant not winning the challenge. But all I'm saying, foreshadowing, is if only all of us felt that way. I think the time has come for Cardinal to hit that play button, and we'll chat about what we're seeing here on screen. I'm looking forward to this. I'm not going to lie. I was looking forward to this challenge because I really, really do like Helldivers, and there's no 2 other people on this planet I'd rather play Helldivers with than you 2. But it was not all it was cracked up to be. So before we get started on this was on challenging challenging difficulty,
Yeah, it
wasn't
was
it?
like tier 4, so I think we QA'd it at level 5, and with our base level weapons, it became pretty much a struggle early doors. So I
Hmm.
think we did decide bring it back a level, at least then you're not as overwhelmed.
Hmm.
But
I th-
the drops were pretty pretty routine at this point, I think. We were having a better time of it, at least anyway.
yeah, I
What is
think
this
we
laser drone? Is that
Oh
tier
yes,
one?
this is one of my stratagems. It kind of just is a proximity thing. So
Okay.
it is what you I think it's called a rover. It kind of just hovers nearby, and any proximity. There's a few options. It can drop a shield, it can drop ammo, or it can fire a laser at nearby enemies.
yeah, they're quite good. It's a guard dog, maybe it's called something along
Hmm.
those lines. But yeah, I think we all said when we were playing this that the drop off between hard and challenging is enormous. I mean, hard mode drops high powered enemies really, really, really quickly, and challenging just never really did. I mean, at one point in the hard, we were fighting off tanks for goodness sake, and it's
Yeah,
just
that's
like,
right.
what
For
is
con
this? What
for
it
yeah,
is?
and for
It's
context, we did try playing it in the hard mode, and just to show the level of skill here, I was the only one that extracted, and these two bums left behind dead. So it just shows you the difference.
Yeah, even in that hard difficulty, I think we ran out of reinforcements as well. So
We did.
there was a lot of waiting around, and I think that didn't make for entertaining content. So I think it was a very good decision to bring it down. But I think when we did finish, I think further on in the mission, we realized that we probably could have bumped it up again, but it would have been a hell of a slog.
I
One thing
th-
that's happening here is there's all three of us are in the same spot on top of a roof, and we're all shooting down, and there's a lot of concentration to avoid crossing of streams
mhm.
of gunfire.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was worried about accidentally killing someone and losing points here. I'm not gonna lie, it was always on my mind. Just be aware of where everyone else is, and if I'm going to fire, pick a point on the map and just try not to fire whilst moving, because that's when all the difficulties arise in Helldivers. But
Yeah.
one thing I want to say is the friendly fire in Helldivers is essential to the Helldivers experience. So it is. I see a lot of discourse on the internet about people wanting the friendly fire removed, or at least a mode that eliminates friendly fire completely. Even on easy, friendly fire exists on Helldivers. I couldn't disagree with those people any more than what I do. I think friendly fire is what makes this game so
Oh
much
God,
fun.
absolutely.
It is really, really funny, and there's always at the forefront of your mind. You have to be aware where everyone else is and what weapons everyone else is using. You don't want to step in front or crouch in front or even go prone in front of someone using a shotgun, because you're going to pick up shrapnel. Um, but yeah, it's just a great little. I don't know who at Arrowhead said, let's put friendly fire in, especially in the first one. The friendly fire in the first one was absolutely, the damage it did was brutally high.
Okay.
Whereas this one, they've toned it down an awful lot, but still really, really high. Basically, if you shoot your teammate, they're probably going to die at your hands.
Yeah,
But
that's it. And it's a funny one because like we play this sort of passively when it's not the three of us, and you find that the communication is a huge part of the gameplay as well. Not even so much of oh yeah, that's me killed by Mr. Luvva Luvva. It
I
may
want to
have
get
been
back
a
to that at the end of this. Let's
crossing
leave
of the
that
stream, yeah.
conversation. Now you say
But
crossing of the stream, but we'll talk about it afterwards. Continue your thought there.
so
Uh-huh.
yes, I think that kind of ties in as well that teamwork, not into the teamwork element, really the communication because if you're in a lobby and nobody's speaking to each other, it's how you coordinate attacks or drops against you. Really can make the missions a lot easier. Whereas, like we were chatting enough, I think, in this game, but not enough that we were still working kind of individually.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, I mean, I've been playing in plenty of lobbies where nobody speaks for like 3 or 4 games, and you get nothing done because you don't know where anyone is, and nobody's
Yeah.
communicating what their intention is. Like, so
Everyone's trying
I
to
think
get their
that's kind of what's
samples.
happened. That's kind of what's happened to me with yourself there. There might have been possibly a lack of communication, but I know you want to touch on this towards the end of the challenge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to mention it until the end because I think it's a point that needs discussed at great length. I think, yeah, right now I think our tactic, which wasn't prearranged, well, it kind of was, but our tactic was to pick a point on the map that had good overview of the rest of the map. So we've picked this bunker roof basically, and we're all just staying on top of the bunker roof because it gives you can see the entire map around you. You can see where the dropships are, and you get a good distance between you and the Terminids. And they the level of enemies in this one, they don't cover ground particularly quick. The Terminids, and it's just let's just blast them as far away, keep them as far away from us as possible, and concentrate our fire on each and every dropship and eliminate it quickly so we don't get overwhelmed. It's worked an absolute treat here. I think in the higher difficulties you can get 2 or 3 dropships at the same time. This
Yeah,
just seems this was always just one, and they just sort of rotate it between 2 or 3. I think it's only 2 different drop areas. So once you cleared one, you can basically just go to the other one and just sort of wait for them to come and get your stratagems and stuff in order and ready to just throw. um, but
that's it. Yeah.
yeah, this strategy is working absolutely perfectly. None of us are really having any issues here. We're just absolutely
No, there's no huge struggle
annihilating.
there. I think we did say this as well, that at 4.5 difficulty would have just been just competitive enough,
Mm-hmm.
but also a little bit of a hair more difficult than what five, or difficult less than what 5 would have been.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
I
I'm feeling
think,
brave here now, and I'm going for a little run now.
and then I'm like, well, no, you're not getting those kills without some competition here, so I jump out to help. Um, but yeah, no, I think it's one of the issues I have with Helldivers is those jumps are enormous between difficulties. It's not so much like a bell curve as like spikes.
Yeah.
And if there was a gentler sort of upward curve to it, it would have been perfect. But it is what it is. We did try hard mode and got absolutely annihilated because our weapons were doing so little damage to the bigger enemies, and they were spawning bigger enemies left, right, and center. It was crazy. I wish we recorded the QA run because it is some viewing it is just carnage and
Chaos.
chaos all the time. It's just one of us 3 dying literally every other minute. It was brutal. Absolutely brutal.
I must
But
say, Tomahawk is always ready with a stratagem. Before any ship of enemies comes along, he's got one in his hand, ready to throw it down.
mm-hmm.
So I made a conscious decision about this, and it was the first time in a while that I've actually like read the details of the stratagem. Some of them have unlimited uses, so that
Mm-hmm.
is just constantly recurring. Some of them have usages depending on anyone else who is also called a similar stratagem, and then you
Mm-hmm.
have to wait for that timer to elapse where the ship can recharge and refuel essentially. So I have a lot of cluster bombs or strafing guns that are pretty self-regenerative and pretty quickly self-regenerative. But I want to highlight this part here where we've all kind of Mexican standoff each other. This is the part where I genuinely just like, right, someone's gonna shoot me in the back, and I'm gonna lose points here for not extracting. But nobody pulled the trigger in this instance.
It never even occurred to me.
It absolutely did, and that's why I ran in first to claim the point
It
of
actually
extracting.
didn't. It actually didn't. So that is the end of that mission on Helldivers. We have all survived. We've all extracted. So that means we're all getting 2 points. And now it comes down to the stats. So once the stat screens comes up, we'll just pause it and we'll talk about how these points are going to be doled out. And then we'll talk about what that means after the fact, I think is the best way to do it, to be honest. Because there's a lot of talking points in that one. There is a lot of
Yeah,
talking points in that one. There is one big one, obviously, that I'm very much
I'm
looking
just
forward
going
to
back to my
discussing.
I'm just going back to my points page here, so we can fine tune what points go to who. Because it's a laugh now, but the QA of this yesterday was chaos. I'm not gonna lie, but I think it was the best way that we possibly could have divided up the points, because I think there's a lot of criteria that is just fluffing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of irrelevant stuff in there, like bullets landed, and there's like a distance covered and all that sort of good stuff. So if just looking at the stats here,
Here we go.
most kills, Tomahawk was 79, accidentals 0, and what else were we using? Deaths 1,
And accuracy as well.
yeah, and accuracy. So yep, so you get the most kills. You've only died once. You've got no accidentals, and your accuracy was 36.7. Cardinals died 0 times. He's done 0 accidentals. He's made 25 kills, and his accuracy was slightly higher than yours with 39.6. And then we have me. My accuracy, I got 40 kills. My accuracy was 54%. I had 1 death, and I had 1 accidental. So Tomahawk, tell us, how are these points being doled out then?
So, using our very elaborate, not made up on the spot scoring system, the points are going out as I am getting a point for the most kills. Luvva, you're getting a point for the most accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Cardinal, you died the least, so you are getting an extra point. Cardinal and myself had the least accidentals, so we're also getting a point each. Luvva, this is a little bit controversial, but you are getting the first negative point in high scores, high stakes history
Incredible
for the
history.
most accidentals.
Mm-hmm.
We all completed the mission, so that's a bonus point across the board. We all extracted, so that's a point across the board for everyone. So from the looks of it here, Cardinal is coming away with 4 points. I'm coming away with 4 points, and Luvva is coming away with 2 points.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that is the points. 4 for Tomahawk, 4 for Cardinal, 2 for me. So I say we wrap up the gameplay and let's get into the debrief. Let's go to the war room and let's debrief what happened, what we just saw on Helldivers 2. Let's get there now.
Cool.
Okay, let's talk about Helldivers 2 here, boys, okay? There's a couple of moments I want to point out here because I'm not happy with it. Number 1, I knew there was going to be dirty-handed tricks being played on me in this here game. And I was right. I was proven right. The proof in the pudding is in the eating, as they say. And here is what I want to... This is what I take issue with when it comes to Helldivers 2. My death in Helldivers 2 was caused by burning. Okay? At the time we played this, Cardinal will remember this. Tomahawk will remember this. And I was like, how did I die? I don't understand that. There was no terminal near me, and I've died. Tomahawk asked, how did you die? And I was like, burning. Cardinal, how did Tomahawk reply to this? Can you remember?
Refresh my memory. I think he might have suggested, that might be...
That might have been me because of my laser drone thing. I'm sorry about that, Luvva, is what he said. So what we have here is a situation where Tomahawk has taken full responsibility for an accidental death. Now, I'm going to ask for a VAR check here. So if we go back to that moment in Helldivers 2 where Luvva dies, let's go there now.
Requesting air support.
Democracy's on its way.
Mag's empty. Throwing grenade.
In the world, leaving combat resupply.
You can clearly see that there was a Terminid with a flamethrower on the ground, yet Tomahawk took responsibility for that kill on me. What does that mean for the score, Cardinal? Can you remind me? Was there any points differential for accidental kills?
Essentially, it is a -1 for the most accidental kills.
There
on
was a
that.
-1.
Yeah.
So my understanding of the rules, as per Tom's very advanced scoring system, is Tomahawk is currently on a -1 for accidentally killing me, even though I believe he knew that it wasn't actually him, and he wanted me to believe that he had accidentally killed me.
I think
Okay.
you're reading far too much into this.
Now,
I don't think I'm smart enough to get away with that.
now here we are. Tomahawk has given us defense. I didn't even think of that. I'm going to ask for a second VAR check here, and it is my accidental on Tomahawk. Let's show that now.
Bag's empty.
You can clearly see that I am crouched in the same spot, firing into the crowd of Terminids. And what happens, Cardinal? Can you remember? How did Tomahawk die in that instance?
Tomahawk loved a strafe. He was strafing left and right like a strafer.
You can. Did I make a sweeping motion with my? Did I move while shooting? Did I turn my character when shooting?
Now I see why you brought up the point of you like to stay still when shooting during Winter Footage Watch.
Yes, because I made a point of not moving while shooting as much as it could be helped. I was using my heavy machine gun, which you can't really use standing up anyway because the recoil is so bad. No, but what happens, as you can clearly see in that replay, is I am crouched, firing into a crowd of Terminids, and who shall wander across my muzzle of my machine gun? Tomahawk. Now, let's link these two events together, okay? Tomahawk tells me that he has accidentally killed me. And then less than 2 minutes later, who is walking across the muzzle of my machine gun? Tomahawk. What could possibly be the aim of Tomahawk walking across my muzzle, if not to give me one accidental as well? So if he's taking a -1, so am I. So I put it to the court of high scores, high stakes. Is it my accidental, or is it an on purpose action by Tomahawk? Did he wander across my muzzle to give me a -1 because he may have believed that he was also on -1? That is what I put to this court of high scores, high stakes. Tomahawk, any words? Would you like to respond? You have the right to respond. This is a free press.
I mean, I applaud you that you think I'm smart enough to do tit for tit, or tit for tat, I should say.
What? Excuse me? This is a family friendly show. Huh?
But y'all know I love a good running gun.
Do we?
I am victim to many getting mowed down through my own lack of perception.
No. I don't buy that. I think you have purposely walked in front of me. You could see me there. I had been in the same spot, or roughly that same spot, for quite a significant amount of time, because that's where the dropships were dropping at that particular time. I think you've done this on purpose. And therefore, my argument is, if it is -1 for accidental kills, is it still an accidental kill if the victim purposely walks in front of my weapon, is what I'm asking. I will take a -1 all day long if I swung my gun around and headshot at you. No bar.
The
But I
incredible
don't
thing
believe
is,
this was accidental.
I could argue my defense until the season finale, and you'll still not believe me. I genuinely just had the blinders went on. I saw some automatons, and I was not aware. I just was going full Johnny Rico, and that's all I had the objective in mind. I was not for paying attention to who was on my peripheral. And if I just happen to walk into your line of sight, that is on me. I will fully accept that, but it's an accidental.
I
It's
disagree.
accidental. It's accidental intent at the end of the day. I mean, I'm not petty enough or clever enough to do a death by burning and then to just walk in front of you to spite myself.
I don't know. And let me tell you why I don't know about this. I don't buy it. Okay, because later on in this gameplay, Cardinal Smith is kneeling, firing into a crowd, terminates. I nearly walk across him, see his laser, stop, go back the opposite direction, therefore avoiding an accidental death for Cardinal Smith. This does not seem like the actions of an accident. I don't buy it. Cardinal, what do you think?
I think Tomahawk shouldn't have just called it an accidental as the words he chose. But it's funny that you did choose the word accidental. I think it's interesting. I think it's maybe the game has counted it not killing you, Luvva, as an accidental because it's a drone.
It-
and it's maybe not.
Tomahawk's drone didn't kill me. It was a terminate.
One thing, it's an automaton, not a terminate, that you've called it this whole podcast.
Whoops.
And that's called whataboutism. But I mean, Tomahawk straight across you, and we saw that happen in the Q&A run, where somebody floated across somebody else's fire path. I think it was I think you floated across my fire path.
Yeah.
Which shows that you know what can happen and how easy it can be to walk across somebody's stream of fire.
I know it can happen, but all I'm saying is at the time, the gameplay, in the heat of the battle, Tomahawk had believed that he had killed me. Therefore, knew he was on -1 and thought, I'm taking Luvva with me. I'm happy enough to take the -1. I just want to highlight underhanded tactics, possibly. I just want to highlight
asterisks on this one, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's different ways to sell this. I would keep the asterisks for now because we haven't come to a consensus, and there might be a way to resolve this later.
I know. If only we had a object in which we could cash in if we had any grudges against one another.
Oh, imagine we brought that segment back. Yeah.
Or do you put it to the court of public opinion?
Who knows? I'm happy enough to take the -1.
TBC.
Even though it's filthy tactics being shown here from Tomahawk completely. It is disgraceful. It is disgusting. But
I'm sorry. Before you continue, in hindsight, it might have been funny to kill both of you right at the start and not call you back in. And whatever it is, just take the highest death points or highest kills.
I'm not gonna lie. Once I accidentally killed Tomahawk after he deliberately walked in front of my machine gun, I didn't reinforce. And I'm not gonna lie, I was not gonna reinforce because I was livid at Tomahawk. But Cardinal called them back down. Cardinal reinforced. But anyway, yeah, at the end of that, it is an asterisk, but Cardinal finished with 4 points. Tomahawk finished with 4 points. I finished with a controversial 2, which should have been 3, but whatever. What does that mean for the league table? I'm going to go to Tomahawk. What does this mean for the league table? Because I don't know.
So, at third place, we have a new foundation. It's you, Luvva, on 7 points. Next, we have myself on 9 points. And then, still sitting pretty after week 2, is Cardinal Smith with 10 points.
Ooh. So 10 for Cardinal, 9 for Tomahawk, 7 for me. I've had 2 weeks in a row now, finishing third. But I'm still breathing down your necks, boys. You're not going to stop me. This is not Sherry. This is not season 1, 2, or 3. If you believe for a second, I will stop fighting. You're absolutely incorrect. But yeah, so that's what it means for the league table. I think we've ran the well dry on Helldivers. Super Earth is going to have to wait just a little bit longer. For more conversation on high scores, high stakes, let's get to the wrap-up section. And that is it. Another episode. A controversial episode. All wrapped up. It's all done. That is it. We have a few matters that need to be resolved. So at the end of last week's Gran Turismo's champion choice, we decided we were going to throw a bonus point in there. And the bonus point was for the car that had the best design. How did we do this? By taking pictures of our cars in either the race mode or the escapes, and then throwing them onto social media to allow you, the fine people, the people who listen to this, our audience, to cast your votes on who had the best designed car. And the results are in. And remember, this was for a bonus point. So, Tomahawk, tell us, what were the results?
Well, that is a good question because I didn't expect you to ask me the points. So
You have the numbers.
bear with me. I'm gonna go by what we had said in the group chat, and I'm gonna have to do a bit of scrolling here. So if you boys want to just talk amongst yourselves until I find it.
A few moments later.
We finished with 3 votes for Luvva, 7 votes, 7 votes for Cardinal Smith, and 10 votes for myself.
Oh,
Okay, so that means basically all Tomahawk's family have come out and voted for him. Boo. Also, now that we're talking about it, the controversy is not yet over. I have to call this out as well, you two. Here we go.
No,
Okay,
it's fine.
so we had 2 polls, one on Insta, one on Twitter. The thing about Twitter is it allows you to vote anonymously. The thing about Instagram is it does not.
Very, very public.
So, upon investigation of the final scores, what did I notice? But Tomahawk and Cardinal Smith had voted for themselves. It's an absolute disgrace. And it shows a pattern of behavior, especially on Tomahawk's part. It shows a pattern of behavior, of underhanded tactics in order to gain advantage in the league table. We have built this podcast on integrity, honesty, and good old-fashioned camaraderie. And this week, Tomahawk, you have set it all in flames for short-term gains. I hope you enjoy that 1 point. I was going to go into the come down with me rant,
Do the
but
full speech.
I'm not even going to bother.
One thing,
But-
listeners, you'll always find is Luvva and Tomahawk always see themselves as the being rivals of each other. So they always go against each other, use tactics against each other. And that's how I end up winning mugs because they take points off each other.
Like it's funny you say that though, because we did say off record to Luvva that just because you don't like the outcome means you can shout at us. And I stand by that.
I have no issues with the outcomes. If I had issues with the outcome, I wouldn't take my -1 point for the accidental, in inverted commas. And I have no issue with how the people voted, especially even if the people who voted are my competitors in this league and there's absolutely no integrity left in this competition. It's worse than the Premier League. You are Manchester City. You're a disgrace.
I want to say when I saw Tom leading the polls by quite a distance, I realized his 16 siblings had really got involved. And I reached out to my work once, and disappointingly, only one of them voted after I asked them to.
See, I didn't reach out to anyone. I just said vote for which car you think's the best because it's integrity, and if I think the integrity is being taken advantage of, I have to keep us accountable, boys. That's all it is. It's not
It's a
personal.
democracy.
It's
You got
accountability.
a canvas.
I'm going to make burner accounts for the season-long challenge. And that brings me on. The season-long challenge is, of course, a photo scrapbook. We have 10 categories. I'm not going to bore you by telling what they are now, but we have 10 categories. We will take 10 photos. Once those photos are all done, we will compile a montage of our photos. They will be anonymous. They will be put on social media, and you, the fine listeners, can vote for which scrapbook is the best. And of course, that means 10 photos, 10 points for the league. What we're saying here is we can do our best to win the league, but the sway vote could potentially lay in the hands of the listeners. And they will all be anonymous. There'll be no way of knowing which one's which. Obviously, they saw Mr. 7 in a row on the side of that white Mazda and went, that's Luvva, and I hate him.
Also, Tomahawks, if you look closely, has Tomahawk written above the
Tomahawk.
front of his cover.
Oh, I noticed it. I noticed it. All these clues. None of that underhandedness in the photo scrapbook, boys. But yes, keep an eye on the social medias. Get yourself to highscoreshighstakes.com and click on all the social medias and keep an eye on them. They will be going up as a whole. They won't be going up individually, just be going up once the scrapbooks are complete. So keep an eye out for that on social medias. And that brings us on then. After that bonus point, we have to do a league table update because it does make a change to the league table. And the league table after the bonus point for Gran Turismo now looks like this. In third place on 7 points, it's me. In second place, now on 10 points because of that GT bonus point, it is Tomahawk. And in first place, also on 10 points, is Cardinal Smith. So there we have it.
Spent a good hour or two on that design of the car. For nothing.
I know, 68 layers it took me in that car. 3 votes. Wow.
Let's move on quick.
Terrible.
That's all I'm saying. Right, let's move on. This is done. This episode's over. This episode's dead to me. So, as I said at the start, if you like the podcast and you want to support us any way you can, the easiest and best way, and currently only way of supporting us is by giving us a star review on whatever podcast platform you listen to it on. If you want to give us a written review, because the algorithms love that, the more written reviews we get, the more the algorithm goes, this is a good podcast, more people should hear it. Then please do that as well. If you haven't told a friend or family member about the podcast and you think they'll like it, hit the share button now. The phone's in your hand. Hit the share button, send it to who you think will like it, and see if we can get more eyes and ears on this. If you want more high scores, high stakes content, highscoreshighstakes.com. Click the links on the top. They'll bring you to all of our homepages everywhere on the internet. And with all of that being said, next week's game is Quidditch. The new Quidditch one, not the PS2 version, the good one. The new one that's not as good. But that's what we're playing. So if you want to see another Hogwarts rap from Cardinal Smith, because I've had it on good authority, he has already penned the sequel. Make
Don't be
sure
a golden snitch.
make sure you follow, like, subscribe to the podcast. And as always, I've been Mr. Luvva Luvva. This has been High Scores, High Stakes. Thanks for listening. See you on Monday. Love you all.
Happy to say.
Bye.
Bye.